camera or to you?
Hello and welcome to Flash Forum, Enlightening Entertainment for the New Age. I'm Karsten Spencer, and I'm really excited to have the Reverend Leslie Nips in the studio with me today, and we're just going to really have a conversation because it's been a while since we've been together. I am fascinated by Leslie as a person and also with her work that she does, family constellation work. And it's been a while since I've seen her and been able to share my work with her. So we're really just going to have a conversation where we really just sort of catch up with what's going on and hopefully be able to share with you what's happening with us. We'll also let you know how you can get in touch with both of us when we reach the end of the show. And we're also lucky enough to have Leslie for a full hour. So if you enjoy what you're seeing today, please tune in next week and watch our second half, which will continue the conversation next week. So, Leslie, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Really good. Wonderful to see you.
It's nice to be here. It's been a while since we've seen each other.
Yes, it has been.
Yeah.
So, I guess the first thing I would like to know is what brought you to the family constellation, the work that you do now?
Okay. So I've been doing this work for about 4 or 5 years now, and family constellations is not well known here, but it's better known in Europe and in South America and Mexico. And it's a way to do healing, deep healing for those things that have been really stuck, that maybe you've tried lots of other modalities for, but it's not moving. With the suspicion perhaps that the problem or issue that you've got may not belong to you, but may perhaps belong to one of your ancestors. We here in the West, we're a country of immigrants. We're always on the move. We don't have a great sense of our roots, of our connectedness with a lineage in the way that some other kinds of communities still are.
I think the native cultures, so many of the native cultures.
2020 continues. Is there proof?
Hello, there we go. A big part of their spirituality is based in a belief of connecting with the ancestors, and that that the energy is still present. So that's one of the things that fascinated me about the family constellation work. And I guess what I would like to know, just because it's interesting to me, is how you were drawn towards this work.
Right. So the first time it was, as many things are, accidents. Just got invited to one of these events. Saw a client who was struggling. I don't remember the issue that person brought at the time, but what came alive in the intergenerational field that we engage when we do family constellations work was all the suffering and distress that was going on in that person's family going back generations. Stories that had gotten lost, suffering that had gone unacknowledged, people who had been disrespected, all came into the field and were honored and included so that the client could release whatever problem or issue they were having that had been inherited through their ancestral field. They could still belong to their family system, in fact belong to it better than ever, but not have to inherit the suffering and difficulty that had gone on before. I found this quite compelling. I found it really, really beautiful, and then I received the work for myself, and then I became trained and now do this with my own clients.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I found really powerful and fascinating and exciting about the work is you talk about the energetic field that and that I felt that, and I did not do it in, I guess, the classic thing where there's a number of people standing in for different aspects of the family, or it was just you and I.
That's right.
And yet I felt this presence of these, these ancestors in the room, and it was, it did give me a feeling of detaching in a certain sense, but from that more detached or authentic space in my own energy, I was really able to come to sort of a balance or a harmony with
Right.
the past, with the ancestors, especially
Yeah.
with my mother and father, which we had a
Right.
lot of stuff. And it's interesting because you
Yeah.
removed them from the situation because you wanted to go beyond, but as the energy shifted beyond them
Yeah.
with the other ancestors, everything seems to sort of move into place. So it was really
Yeah.
quite powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, the classic format is the group format, and I do that in Berkeley 2 or 3 times a month. But it has been adapted to working one-on-one, by Skype, by telephone. I do a lot of telephone constellations as well, because all that's going on is a very simple modality that takes all these people who didn't live at the same time, right? You're never going to meet your great-grandfather, right? Historically, not possible. And yet it brings all these people from different times so that we're interacting now, in the now. And what's important about family systems is that they want to be ordered for the purposes of love. That's it.
Yeah.
For love and for sending
Yeah.
life on.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the biological imperative,
Yes,
right?
right.
Create more life.
Right.
And it gets disordered.
Yeah.
And people take positions that are painful or disruptive
Right.
or difficult.
Or
And
they
all-
get stuck in certain patterns. Yeah.
And so the system wants to right itself.
Yeah.
It's like the child who takes care of the parent. It doesn't feel good to anybody.
Right.
And when everyone can take their proper places in the system, the whole thing relaxes. And then that relaxation can lead to real life alleviation of symptoms like depression or overeating or health problems, money, employment issues,
Yeah.
relationship stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which one would never think of to connect with your ancestors.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So what the experience is, it's interesting because we're so stuck in this linear world. We have this idea of what life is about, and it's bound up by time. There's the past, there's the future, and then there's now. And what I experienced during the family constellation work, what I experienced during my work when I work with clients, and they'll suddenly have a memory of childhood, where
Right.
you feel the energy of it is actually present right here and right now. And I think that's
Exactly.
also what these native communities understood, in a sense, is that they're always calling forth the energy. What I love is the Native American instances. They're paying attention to 7 generations back
Right.
and 7 generations forward, always available in that energy. So it really allows us to feel more of our sense of power, that we're not stuck
Right.
in this one time, that all this energy is available to us.
And this wisdom is showing forth in so many different parts of our culture now, because basically what we're calling it contemporaneously is systems wisdom. And so in organizational realms, in some of the realms of computer science these days, in family therapy, and in the indigenous wisdoms, this notion that we aren't just little beings floating through space. We're part of a context at all times. Our environment, the earth, the stars,
Yes. Yeah.
you and I
absolutely.
sitting here, we're all affecting each other all the time.
Well, it's interesting because you know that I've just been hired as the spiritual leader of Unity of Ukiah,
Yeah,
which is really exciting. And
congratulations.
you're a reverend, so we have a
Yeah.
couple of
Yeah.
people here. But what's interesting is the one of the main principles of Unity is there's only one power, one presence, active in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent.
Yeah,
Big statement.
yeah,
And I've been involved with Unity for many years, but to actually live that statement is really honoring that there is only one. There is, and we're all different aspects of that energy. So
Yeah.
we're constantly in relationship with everything,
Yeah.
past, future, present, other dimensions. And this is something that really became clear to me. It's partly what drew me to Unity and to family constellations and this type of work,
Yeah.
is because through my yoga, which a lot of my path has been about getting into my body, which has
Right.
actually now brought me to the dream work that I'm doing now, which is about getting back out of the body and sort of moving into those other realms from this grounded place.
yeah.
And what I really notice is the work that you do, so much of the healing work that's happening on the planet is about getting grounded in the here and now. And when we get fully present, we begin to experience those other dimensions. I mean, my
Right.
yoga has been a big part of that. So much of
Yeah.
it moving into the body, I connect with breath and gravity, which is our energetic connection to everything around us, right?
Well, and the lovely thing about yoga is that, it's the old saw, the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone, right?
Yeah.
We have a distress in one part of our body that may not actually be sourced in that part of our body. It may actually be sourced somewhere very differently. It could be as a result of a physical problem somewhere else,
Right.
or a spiritual problem somewhere else, or an emotional, or an historical, or an ancestral issue somewhere else. So finding out what's the disorder in the system and having different ways of finding out what that is and putting things back into order, I think of as very much a yoga notion.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
really for me so much why my yoga practice led me into family constellation or some of this deeper work, and actually
Right.
the energetic body work technique that's based in yoga.
Yeah.
That's what I do. It really is about feeling the energy of the body, finding what you can feel where it's blocked just from seeing how someone stands, and releasing it. I'll be working with clients and I'll find an area where I can feel something's blocked, and suddenly either I'm sort of drawn to just make a conversational question, which I've realized in the work there's no
Yeah.
conversational questions, or else they just start sharing something about me, very often about a past trauma
Yeah.
or about a relationship they're in. And if we explore it, we always see that it relates into what's going on with their body. And as their body releases, sometimes it'll be an emotional release or just an aha moment when they see, oh, I get what was going on there. And it was the same thing with the family constellation work.
Right.
You take the leap of faith that energetically your ancestors or this blocking of energy that is part of the ancestral system is there, because we carry all this in our cells, right? One of the things that I always say to my clients is that our parents, because we all have issues with the parents. I say that the process of evolution is that our parents give us everything they have, all the good and all the bad. And we take it, and we're in this energy of moving forward, because that's what life is, always
Right.
moving forward.
Yeah.
And we do the best we can to figure out, a little bit more, learn a little bit more, grow a little bit, and then we pass that on to our children. And I think the exciting thing about being on the planet today is that we are in an accelerated period of growth and letting go of really that idea of separation, that anything's separate. We're really beginning to experience that we're all connected energetically, not only everyone on the planet here and now, but back into our ancestors and also forward into the future. We have access, like especially in the dream state, the dream work that I'm doing, we have the ability to go forward into the future and begin to play with probable future selves. I mean, I think partly that's what happens when we dream. We're toying with what we're going to create in this physical
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. So what are you doing with the dream team right now? Tell me what that is.
Well, it's interesting because I did the presence process in the fall, which was really another energetic 10-week process that really is about going into the solar plexus and clearing old emotional patterns. Those patterns, very similar to family constellation, it really keys right in. Those patterns that we are given as part of moving into this physical field through our DNA, through the energetic patterns of our parents, that in many cases keep us stuck in the trap of time, always worried about the past and trying to figure out the future, keep us from really being present where we can experience all this energy. What happens, we get an old emotional charge which was passed down to our parents from their parents because they were unable to allow themselves to feel it, like a deep trauma that they've held, something they were unable to really process and allow it to move through their body, so it keeps them out of their body. So much of us, I know so much of the work that I've done is trying to stop the chatter of the ego mind and to allow ourselves to be present and release, because the ego mind stops us from feeling, and the feelings, if we can allow them fully, they allow us to move more fully into our body and see what's really going on. And so the presence process allowed me to really release the emotional charges. I stopped resisting life, and we all say, oh, it's easy to resist life, but I stopped trying to think it should be going this way and it should be different. And actually it brings me back to the unity principle. One power, one presence active in my life, God the God omnipotent. If that's true, then whatever is showing up in your life is there for your benefit. It's what's supposed to be showing up, and it's good. And what the presence process says is, especially those things that pushed your button, stop trying to fix and go into panic mode and run around when something pushes your buttons and you start having a feeling, that's the time to stop, do the technique that they explain in the book, and allow the feeling to, as they say in the Tibetan book of dreams and sleep, allow the feeling or the emotion to self-liberate. It's interesting because the presence process really led me to going to see John of God. While I was in John of God, sort of to get back to actually answering your question, I got this download after I went in front of him and asked him again for what's the next step in my work? How do I bring my work to people and really allow it to evolve naturally? And the message I got was to do this dream work. And so through my research, I've realized that a lot of this dream work is really the next step for the presence process. It's about allowing the emotions to self-liberate, so you release the karma, you get yourself out of the karmic trap of good and evil, and you're really able to be in the presence and be the causal point in your life rather than constantly reacting to life. And so it's interesting because in my past, when I was a kid, I had a lot of out-of-body experience in lucid dreams. And as I became an adult and began to get into my healing, I realized that a lot of the reasons I went out of my body was because of extreme abuse when I was a kid.
Sure.
I was actually retreating. So a lot of my work has been about getting back into my body, and it became clear when I was at John of God was now that I'm back in grounded, it's time to use the facility I had when I was a kid to be able to go into these other realms and begin to work that through with a group where we're really exploring the other dimensions with the intention of bringing that divine energy and that whole subconscious field of awareness and information into the present moment. So I'm really not sure how it's going to work because it's clear that it's going to evolve with the group. I've got some wonderful people already signed up. And
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what I hear as part of your story is that, as many of us have, growing up in an environment that was literally dangerous for you, right? How do you belong to a family or even to a world which is dangerous for us? And we go, no, I'd rather not. Which is a quite understandable response. It probably gets us through a great deal in our childhood. And I know a lot of your listeners have that kind of an experience in their childhood with either literal abuse or just environments that were very difficult in one way or the other. And so how do you belong safely and well to a family like that or a world like that? You know, if you grew up amongst war or other kind, I think of the kids growing up in Syria right now. How do you belong to a world like that? And what Family Constellations makes possible is to sort of name and honor and respect and not approve of any of that danger, but still make it a good thing to belong to our families and to our world, so that we can say yes to the kind of positive vision and purpose that you're talking about in your own life, rather than continuing to say, no, I'd rather not.
And I think that that's really what's happening with humanity now, is we're in a critical point where we're saying, do we really want to be here in our body? And if we do, how do we get into it more fully? How do we heal the past, clear it, let it go, and become present? And the way that I've seen that we can do it, and this is for me the only way that works, is being conscious of what the past was, what happened, what is our past, what were our ancestors giving us. The powerful thing about the family constellation work and some of the other work I've been doing, some of the grief work I've done through Sue Fredericks, which is about really, it's a process that allows you to feel, see, and really communicate with people, the loved ones who have passed on. And what you realize, and came up very clearly in the family constellation work, is they are there supporting us. They want and need us to come into balance, to continue to heal, because as we do and get more grounded here, we're sending them more energy. As they get more grounding and healing in their dimension, whatever it is or wherever they are, they're able to send us more energy. So the truth is, we're never separate from our soul group, whether they're in the body or out, and our ancestors are part of our soul group.
Right. And that's a dilemma for a lot of people who, for understandable reasons, don't want to feel connected to parents who felt dangerous to them, whether those people are still alive or they're dead. And I think we can have a lot of sympathy for that. And there are ways to hold the connection and still feel really safe. One of the gorgeous lines that the founder of Family Constellations came up with, Bert Hellinger, is for us who are smaller than the ancestors to turn to them, the ones who are perpetrators and the ones who are victims and the ones who had all kinds of complicated life experiences, is to say, I bow to the dignity of your fate, which allows them just to have their experience, and we give it the respect it deserves. And notice this is not the same as saying, I approve of your fate, or your fate was just, or anything like that. It's just, I bow to the dignity of your fate in the same way we would want our own fate to be seen with dignity by others. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it's a way to release the guilt and the shame
Guilt, yeah.
that we carry. I know for me, having had sexual abuse from my father
Right.
when I was younger, a lot of rage, a lot of stuff, and through my own healing process, I wrote him very strong confrontational letters that, because of the response I got, which is not surprising, it was not so, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, everything was horrible, as if
We don't get that very often,
well,
yeah.
and what I realized too, as if he'd said that, it suddenly would have made everything all right.
That's a
because,
useful thing to notice
right.
too, yeah.
But in setting that boundary and saying, by basically wrote him back, said, no, I do not want you as part of my life because this is just, this is not, this is not helpful for me. In making that separation, really allowed for much more deep healing. I began
Right.
having dreams about him where I would either be confronting him or asking him, why did it happen, what was going on, and I could feel a deep healing on an energetic level was going on, and even though he wasn't physically in my life and I'd separated that physical boundary, I'm going to call it our higher selves or our higher energies was then able to come into play, and I had many deep healing dreams. So by the time he did finally pass, and I never did speak to him again while he was alive, but when he did finally pass, I had a sense of completion. My first thought was a sense of relief because I could feel my inner child finally felt safe. And then the next thought was compassion for him. Thank God he's now out of the pain. Whatever pain that caused him being in the body, there was a sense that he was released. So that was really powerful.
Well, and a really nice thing is for you to be able, in a way, to say to your father, thank you for my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and
'Cause
we did that in
no
the
other
session
guy,
I had with you.
I mean, we can have this fantasy, I would have liked a different mother or a different father, which, again, we totally understand that fantasy. But if we get a different mother or a different father, know us, not ever. So we can't regret that these two people were our parents, as heartbreaking as it often is. And then you get to be your father's son, which is a good place for you. Yeah, it's a place of dignity.
Yeah, well, and I realized through my healing with both my parents, because they were human beings, so they had their evil terrors, that side that
Right.
I can go into sometimes too. I have to
Oh,
admit,
yeah.
I don't always show up as perfect.
Yeah. Who's the innocent one?
Right, but then I also was really able to realize through my healing the compassion that they had, so that all the good stuff that they gave me, and that really is a gift. And what you were talking about earlier, about this healing work, it allows us to move into that heart space, out of the ego mind stuff, where the healing of compassion can really come in, and it's not making anything that happened okay, but it's understanding from that place of non-judgment that really everyone is just doing the best they can with what they were given.
And all of us have a longing to be our parents' child, son or daughter, as much as we may be pushing ourselves away from that. So for some people, there's nothing good they receive from their parents except for their life.
Yeah.
Truly, they're those kinds of savage situations. And at the very least, can we say thank you for my life? I am your daughter, I am your son. And it gives us a place to be, like you were saying before, a rootedness, a centeredness, a place to be who I am in the world. I think all of us have chosen to be human, to have the experience of being embodied, to have this human experience. My teacher often says people are waiting in line for this experience.
Yes, I've heard that too, especially at this time in humanity. There's a lot of people who want to be here as we're going through this big shift. And of course another concept, which I think you probably agree with as well, having done this work, is that at a soul level, we do choose our experience,
Yeah.
our parents, our family system, the time we come
Yeah.
into, and exactly the challenges that we need to place in front of ourselves to strengthen that inner part of us. So the powerful thing about that concept, whether it's actually true or not, is
Yeah.
it puts you in a point of power in your life.
Right.
You're no longer the victim.
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, what is good in this situation? What have I learned from this? What strength has it given me?
Yeah. And we have to be very careful about that, of course, with our clients, depending upon where they are with their own experience of having been harmed by others. And at the right moment, as you say, it is usually quite an empowering stage in the healing process when it's ready. Before then, what we say is, as you did with your father, that was horrible, that was wrong, it was painful.
Yeah, and you have to be very careful not to, because it's easy to, if you're especially in a place of a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, to suddenly, well, if I chose this, suddenly use that as an excuse to beat yourself up or
That's
blame
my
yourself.
fault. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's not helpful
Yeah, yeah.
at all,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's why working with someone who really knows and has done this work and has a paradigm. That's what's wonderful about the presence process.
Right.
And some of the grief work that I've done and that I do with clients, and that's what's I see is very powerful about the family constellation.
Yeah.
Is it's a process that works and creates a loving support around
Yeah.
you.
It's important, I think, to have a discipline and a sense of tradition that we are, in some sense, following as we move forward in our healing processes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And as
Yeah.
much as the tradition, it's also very important to find that, whether it's a coach or a mentor or a facilitator, a therapist, who you feel that unconditional support from, who you
Right.
trust, who you sense has done their own work, who has
Right.
moved through the process themselves. And when I say that, who is also still in their process, because I know certain people can move through and get their degree and say, oh, I've done it, but you and I both know that this is never done.
Right.
We are in a process of continual
Yeah.
growth and movement and awareness.
Yeah.
And that our clients, for me, my clients help me do that. They always show up to sort of show me exactly what my cutting edge is.
Yeah. I often say, if you're looking for a practitioner, there are 3 things that to be on the lookout for. Did you come away feeling safe? Did you come away feeling respected? And did you come away feeling like something that mattered happened? And if you've got those 3 things, then you probably want to sign up for a second session.
Yeah.
But if any of those are missing, then it's okay. There's a million practitioners out there. You can find the next person.
Yeah, and I know what people have a tendency to do, because I'll often get clients who come to me after they've been wounded in
Right,
other situations, and I'll say, well, why did you stick with that? I say, well, I did feel like I was learning a little bit each time, but there was the one of the 3 wasn't there.
Right.
And so it's important, as you said, if all 3 are not there, keep looking, because everyone is going to be able to offer you something. And it's not that that person is wrong or whatever. It just might not be an energetic match, and
Right.
that's so important.
Right. That would have saved me a lot of money and time if I'd been using those rules
Likewise,
on
yes,
myself over the
likewise.
years, my 17 therapists.
Likewise. Well, Leslie, this is
Okay.
we're coming to the end of our first
Oh, good.
thing, but we
That was fast.
will be. I know it zips right by. We will be continuing, but go ahead and share with our viewers how they can get in contact with you.
Okay, so again, my name is Leslie Nips, and you can come to my website,
And you can tell them right
leslienips.com.
in the camera.
That's LESLIE, N as in Nancy, I, 2 P's as in Peter, S.com. You will find my email address there. You'll find events and opportunities, as well as I do a free 30-minute phone consultation for anyone who would like to explore this further.
Wonderful, and I definitely encourage anyone to take Leslie up on that, because whether you decide to work with her or not, that 30-minute phone consultation, she's going to give you some powerful tools and gifts that will make a difference in your life. And you can also contact Leslie through me if you don't remember exactly what she said. You'll see my website at the end of the show as the credits roll, and you can always just Google me, Karsten Spencer, and it will take you to many different avenues where you can find me. So tune in again next week if you want to hear more from Leslie. Thank you for watching, and I honor you and your process.